Iran has launched missiles and drones toward U.S. targets. That's according to a social media post from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. It comes after the U.S. military launched a new wave of strikes against Iran. Those strikes were in retaliation for Iran shooting down a U.S. Army helicopter on Monday. The two helicopter pilots were not hurt. U.S. Central Command called the retaliatory strike an act of self-defense against Iran's unjustified aggression. Now President Donald Trump says that attacks on Iran could continue.
Well, we're going to be attacking them very hard.
You're resuming bombing?
Yeah, well, we are. Based on the helicopter, I guess we have the right to do that. We hit them hard yesterday, and we're going to hit them again hard today, in case you miss it, in case you don't turn on your television set. And we'll see what happens with the deal.
Drones or remotely piloted aircraft such as those flown at the Niagara Falls Air Base are now playing a major role as the war in the Middle East is flaring up with military actions between the U.S. and Iran. Right now, we do not know if local airmen are involved, but we do know they are trained and equipped to do so, as our Ron Plants explains in this Two on Your Side original story.
It's officially called the MQ-9 Reaper, known to the military as a remotely piloted aircraft, and the Air Force brass salutes its abilities, as we heard in May at congressional hearings on Operation Epic Fury, how generals refer to the war in Iran.
Thanks, Chairman. I'm a fan of unmanned as well. In fact, for Epic Fury, perhaps maybe the most valuable player was unmanned. And this MQ-9, and so we've made many strikes. I don't want to say how many because the number's classified, but no other platform is even close to the MQ-9, which is an unmanned platform.
We are monitoring MQ-9s very closely in light of what has occurred over the last several weeks in Operation Epic Fury. I think what this has demonstrated is really the value of the MQ-9.
That value tied to the aerial surveillance, but also possible attack capabilities of the Hellfire missile-equipped MQ-9 as it can loiter or circle around a target area for reportedly up to 24 hours, unlike a fighter jet with an actual pilot who has limited on-target time and the risk of injury or death if shot down. The pilots of these machines, along with sensor operators who control its sophisticated surveillance equipment from stations like these, which can actually be transported in trailers, can be anywhere in the world, like maybe the Niagara Falls Air Base, where some of the men and women among the 700 members of the Air National Guard's 107th Attack Wing handle this mission. We met their new commander on Saturday and asked about the mission and sometimes long, intense hours controlling a flying machine perhaps 6,000 miles away in the case of Iran.
I have a lot of pride in what they do. They're highly trained. They're extremely capable and confident in what they do. It's a very high-demand mission, but you might be working midnights to whatever. And then, yes, you might be home station, air quotes, but you get home just in time to see your wife or your husband and your children are going to school, and now you're just going to bed to try to catch up on sleep before you got to get back in the box. We can be anywhere, anytime, in a very short amount of time, able to apply effects, whatever set effects are requested.
The 107th unit at the Air Base was assigned to fly the MQ-9 Reaper in 2014 with an understanding about the word drone.
It's not a drone. This is a full-up, highly capable platform that just happens to have their operators remote, which also gives us the freedom and flexibility to operate anywhere in the world at any given time, performing whatever is required per the National Defense Strategy.
Ironically, because it flies slow, the Iranians have shot down a number of Reapers or hit them in attacks on U.S. air bases in the Middle East. So attrition, as the military says, is costly for the Pentagon and taxpayers.
Even with that attrition, we're down to about 135 planes right now. We are still able to fulfill our contract of 56 combat lines.
The MQ-9, depending on what sensors are on that, can cost up to $50 million a copy.
Now again, we don't know if any Air Guard members at the Niagara Falls Air Base have actually flown Reapers in the Iran war. Air and Space Forces magazine reports MQ-9s, which actually again fly out of bases overseas, are being flown to monitor the Strait of Hormuz and help protect with cover fire a downed U.S. air crew member who had his plane shot down several weeks ago in Iran, as you may recall. On your side, Ron Plants, Channel 2 News.
Ron, thank you for that original report. And as the nation prepares to mark its 250th anniversary, local leaders gathered at the Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park to honor the legacy of Colonel John B. Weber. The Buffalo native was a Civil War veteran who commanded the 89th U.S. Colored Infantry. He later served as a congressman, Erie County Sheriff, and became the nation's first commissioner of immigration. This is the display in the colonel's honor. The goal is not only to show the impact the colonel had in history at the Naval Park, but also one day preserve his home in Lackawanna.
And finding a way to transform his home into a meaning historical asset for our community. That piece of microtourism, it could become an opportunity for education, community engagement, tourism, and economic activity in the great city of Lackawanna.
The exhibit will be open from 10 to 5 every day at the Naval Park. There are also several new flags flying at the Naval Park just in time for Flag Day. County leaders joined Naval Park officials to present a new POW MIA flag for the Vietnam War Memorial, as well as the U.S. flag and South Korean flag for the Korean War Memorial. One local business owner says he was honored to help get the park ready for the ceremony.
We all gave some gave all for our freedoms. So the least we could do is trim trees to make this honorable Flag Day ceremony and put up our beautiful red, white, and blue flag. It represents all the soldiers and veterans over the wars that served to make our freedoms.
Flag Day is coming up this Sunday, June 14th. It is an annual observance of the day the U.S. flag was officially adopted back in 1777.